Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to Barker and Broski. Check it out. There you go. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Mike Schneider Barker and Chris Broski of Barker and Broski. How you guys doing?
All right. It's
Doing
awesome
great,
to be
man.
here. Good to see
Excellent.
you.
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Another day above ground's a gift.
Hey, I'm in a basement.
Yeah.
What does that say?
Yeah, that could be a problem, Chris.
Yeah, well, my home office is in the basement and music studio.
Oh, well, there you go.
And other assorted things. So yeah, I'm a bit below ground.
Okay, I retract that statement.
And coming from somebody who's read about cozy hobbit holes.
Oh yeah, there
it's
you
not
go.
so bad.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you so much for reaching out to me. You sent me an email saying you would checked out the podcast and you're interested in having you guys on, and I was like, all right, this sounds cool. I went and checked out the music. I think it's great. And I was really intrigued with your podcast. It's called Making It Small in Music, which I love because I feel like I'm making it small in podcasting.
Right.
I had made it small in music too. Yeah, it's great. I love the format of it. I love the fact that you guys are reaching out. I really like that you experimented on yourselves first, right? Because it introduces you to your listeners, and then two, you got to kind of polish your skills as far as doing interviews and stuff. But you guys ran like champs. The first one was Dave Roof, I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
That was a great one.
Yeah, it was fantastic because I know Dave, but I don't know Dave. Like, I know who he is. I've seen him. I've said hello to him.
He gets around. Yeah. He does so much stuff musically, recording and session playing and whatever in the area.
Yeah, because I think the first time I saw him was maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. They used to do this Nash Bash thing at Carytown.
Right. They still do, I think.
Well, I haven't seen it in a while, but it's, COVID kind of screwed everything up.
Yeah.
But I think I saw him there. I think he played bass for the Whiskey Charmers. And then I think that was the time I first got introduced to Judy Banker, and he plays in her band, and I think he's in, I don't know, like 50 other bands, and he's doing some other things, but
he can play all the instruments, and he'll sit in, and
Absolutely.
we can't afford him though.
Yeah. I've known the guy since he was probably about 18.
Oh, really? Awesome. Well, I know you guys kind of get into your backgrounds in the first couple of episodes of your podcast, but for folks that may have not checked it out, they should go check it out and go check out your music as well, because it's really fun. And I got some questions about that.
There are questions about our music.
We have questions about our music.
Like, what were we thinking?
But the first one is, and I don't know if you got into it too much, is how did you guys get together? How did Broski or Barker and Broski become the duo that you are now?
Oh, it's such a long history.
Yeah, Chris, you want to take this one?
Oh my gosh, I think we should do it in segments because, originally I met Mike in college, and through the little radio station there,
right?
And then we just kept, Mike was playing drums, and we had some mutual friends, and we played in a band in college, on and off, and it was a good time.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, we got back together, and we're in another band, and then decades after that, how many bands do you think we've been in?
With the same bass player, probably 3.
Yeah.
But they're all interchangeable, really. But
different names. You name a band. It's a new band, even though it's the same players, I think.
And then I knew Chris was really into playing the classical guitar and had written some really cool classical pieces. And I put together I booked music for this festival out here in Tecumseh called the Appalumpkin Festival, and for the first one that I did, I invited Chris to come out and play,
Cool.
and then the
That
next
was
year I
the
invited.
first one?
That was the first one.
Wow.
Wow.
Could have been the second. I don't know. It was 100
Yeah,
years
it was
ago,
back in what, 2016 or something?
something like that. And then the next year we played as a duo, and then things just kind of
Yeah,
went from there.
sort of a
Nice.
natural progression. Mike is such a good lyricist. I always enjoy his lyrics, and I'm not much of a lyricist, but I like writing music. And I think it was he kind of dumped this big pile of lyrics on me, and I picked out what sounded interesting, and we and then yeah, it kind of came from there. And yeah, we've been doing this. We have 3 albums now,
Yeah.
3 singles, four
Right.
singles. We've been doing
Christmas
Christmas
single.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Christmas song was the
Four?
most recent one I saw.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. We start well, you know, w- Mike booked us this gig at um what's it called? South Lyon, Rocking for Stockings.
oh,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
And he says, they like it if you could, at least play some Christmas music. So we kind of were like, all right, well, we'll throw something together, and we went back and forth and kind of came up with this the dollar store Christmas, and it was better than our other music. So now, you need
Just
to
kind of
lean
upped
into
our
your
game.
strengths. So yeah, we've
It
been
upped our
doing a
game.
Christmas song every year, and it's fun. And then this last year, I decided to up our Christmas game, and we did a Christmas show where we invited a lot of other musicians on, and everybody played like 5 songs, and
Nice.
we did our best to put up lights and and things like that, and it was a great time.
It
It
was
was
a
a
time.
really nice time.
Yeah.
Um,
We
so
You know,
I
kind
I,
don't
of,
one, of
know.
the, one of the things I really like to do is put together musicians and just kind of hang out.
yeah.
I've been doing a songwriters in the round for a little over a year now, just inviting a variety of the acoustic songwriters from the general region. And you know, I've been writing lyrics for 40 years, maybe plus. But I've been a drummer all the while, so I really couldn't write my own melodies. So I'd rely on folks like Chris. But I write too many lyrics, and so I decided I would learn how to play guitar so I could write my own melodies. Because, well, Chris, what have I written? 30, 40 since in the
I
past
can't
couple of
keep
years.
up. I mean, I'm very
Um,
meticulous. I'm like I like writing music, but to me it takes me months. I rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit, and he's blown by me. He's written several albums of lyrics by the time I finish one song.
yeah, I've got 3 solo-ish records. Dave Roof plays all the melody instruments on my 3 records that are outside of Barker and Broski, and I have more lyrics coming.
That's awesome.
You know
Well,
what's interesting? I was thinking about too is that when we first started playing, like when Mike just booked me at the Apple Umpkin Festival,
uh,
and I was playing a big steel string, and just kind of doing the acoustic thing, singing
right.
covers and strumming. And then Mike's like, "Well, let's have a duo." But at that point, we weren't even sure what we were playing, and it kind of
Right.
evolved. And that to me, I'm like, if I could play any instrument in a band, what would it be? And it'd be nylon string, because that's what I play at home for pleasure, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And that was a real struggle trying to get, um, how trying to get it amplified.
Yeah.
And I went through several guitars and many failures, and eventually I have the perfect guitar for it. And then Mike, he's a drummer, and we're playing an acoustic duo. So what do? Do you have a cocktail kit? He played a cajon. And I'm
Right.
like, I don't know if these things are working. And he's like, well, I have this Zen drum. And have you seen him play this thing?
No, no. What is a Zen drum?
Well, a
Um,
Zen drum is it's a MIDI trigger device
Okay.
that hooks up to an Alesis drum uh, module
Yeah.
thing,
Yep.
all the sounds, and it's got 24 pads on it And so I can program 24 different sounds per channel, up to 16 channels.
Wow.
And I've got a variety of really cool sounds, but I play mostly traditional stuff because
Drum, bass, hi-hat, there you go.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, pretty
drum
much just
kick.
because that kind of fits what we're doing. Periodically I'll use like hand percussion sorts of sounds on the
Yeah.
Zen drum, but it allows me to stand up and also be a
Get to be a
front
front
man as
man,
well.
not in
Nice.
back of the drums.
I got
You
tired of
know,
looking at the bandmates' backsides.
like, well, I was toning up for nothing then. And Mike, if I had a Zen drum, I would program them all to be a cowbell.
Yeah.
And then that
More
way,
cowbell.
yeah,
Well,
exactly. You could hit anywhere
24.
and it'd sound good.
But
But
you know
yeah,
what? You can
so
even change the timbre of the sound, and you can have higher sounding cowbells and lower sounding
Oh,
the
cowbells.
wow.
cowbell symphony,
Now,
the
can you
That's
cowbell
do
right.
orchestra.
can you do that thing where so I'm gonna guess that those pads are like touch sensitive so that the amount of pressure
Yeah.
you put on is impacted. Can you do that? Because I've seen some drummers like, and I'm not even sure. I think it's a box drum, where they'll take either their elbow or their knee and rub the side of it and get kind of a wah sound out of the drum, which almost like a wah. Can you do anything like
Is
that?
that one of those talking drums? Is that what they call them? I don't
I
know.
don't think a Zen drum can do that, and if it can, I haven't figured out how. But it is
Nice.
touch sensitive, and I can play harder or softer, depending on the amount of pressure I place on the pads.
Awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's really expressive, and the thing is too is that as a duo, the Zen drum sounds like a good electronic kit, and I'm playing classical, so what I'm trying to do is play bass and rhythm at the same time. And some of our songs, I many times somebody will come in from the other side where we're playing and be like, "Where's the bassist?" We
Yeah.
can kind of sound like we're an actual three-piece band
Well, that
if
was
everything goes well.
That was a question I had because listening to your music, it's got the full ensemble. You got a bass drum, you got electric and acoustic guitars, and I was curious as a duo how you were trying to pull that off, to get that bass player in there, because I was like, how does that work? Are they using some kind of like pre-recorded tracks or what? But it sounds like you're improvising it around that to
Well, you
work
listen
with
to
what
the
you got.
studio recordings. We've got
Yeah.
some live stuff on YouTube. We've got a lot of live performances
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Oh, I'll have to go check that out then. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I was
subscribe.
curious.
Um, like and subscribe. Uh, but yeah, and the thing is I do have a bit of a habit of overdoing it. We get to the studio and Dave Roof's there, and you could do anything, and I'm like, let's do everything. And
Yeah.
it could be a little. Sometimes it's hard to rein myself in. But all of our songs, I mean, we write and practice them as a duo,
Okay.
and then kind of go into the studio and say, all right, now what can we do just to bump it up a little?
Hmm.
But there's no song that we play that we've recorded that we can't play live and sounds pretty darn close,
Yeah.
Right.
without the string section and whatever.
Right. Right.
And I do play the full drum kit on those studio recordings.
Okay. I figured it was a full drum because it doesn't sound. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes it can be hard to tell.
Yeah.
Sometimes with a good, um, you know, DAW that has great drum. You can model all that stuff and it sounds real. But there's
Yeah,
Well,
and even
this
certain
acoustic
aspect to a
drums.
real drum that you can't necessarily model, and it's the
I've
drummer.
I've seen people like quantize acoustic drums and things like that, and then go in and layer sound. So even real drums are kind
Yeah.
of fake. Where's the line anymore?
Right.
But
Right.
I do enjoy, getting to get fancy in the studio. And it does kind of make it a fun challenge of, all right, how are we going to pull this off live?
Yeah.
And I think it's neat. I like being in this ensemble where it is the instruments we're playing, good luck finding another band who's playing that. The least we
Right.
could say is we are unique. And it really, I think it gives us creative and opportunities to really explore in areas that haven't been explored.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
right.
it.
Well,
Yeah, me too. And
and
also, it's easier to coordinate practices.
oh yeah.
Yeah, only two people.
Yeah. Scheduling becomes much easier.
Yes, now
Yeah,
only if we didn't live 100 miles apart.
That's
But
yeah.
yeah, that
I
makes it a
don't know
little
if
tough.
I don't think it's that far, but it is a
No,
drive, I
Yeah,
can assure you.
yeah, it's probably what, hour maybe?
Yeah.
close. Yeah,
Yeah.
but our plan is that we get together every 2 weeks. One time Chris comes to my place, one time I come to his place. So we're only making the trip once a month,
Yeah.
but it hasn't been working out like that since COVID.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully, I mean, things are
Yeah.
gradually getting better.
And if
So
I can get my lazy butt off the couch.
Yeah, that's the
well,
hard
that's
part.
another thing too.
I gotta leave the house and
Yeah,
drive.
damn it.
Yeah.
What the hell?
We've tried doing like practices online, and I know there's tools out there, but I have not been able to get them to work. The latency,
Yeah,
it connection has to be fast enough so that you're playing it on the same beats.
right. Yeah, I don't, well, I've never tried it, but I can't imagine that it's necessarily seamless.
You
It's
know,
allegedly you could get it to work, but not for me.
out here in Podunk nowhere though, the squirrels aren't working fast enough on the wheels to get it to run.
That's
Yes,
right.
as we've already experienced tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe.
speaking of your music, I need to understand the story behind Billy Bob because uh, that the first I think it's your first three
Yep.
albums. There it is about Billy Bob,
Yeah.
kind of his story, and then some other music.
He's
Then
the
you've got
central
Billy Bob
character.
Senior, and then you've got Billy Bob's band, or your interpretation of
Right.
Billy Bob's band playing music on the latest one, the Coal Country
Cold Country
Heartbreakers.
Heartbreakers.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of all goes back to when we were writing songs out of college, and Mike would write these songs with all these characters.
yeah.
Like, who
Yeah.
did you have back then?
Back then it was Fat Zach and the Bald Man.
So there was two,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then Mike would write. You wrote multiple songs with these guys.
I did. Yeah. There was Stompin' with Z and Continuing Adventures of Zach and
The
OD.
Ballad of Otis Dunkley,
Bad. Yep.
um, Zach's Lament.
Yep. Yep. I think
There's so it's like we've written songs for characters before, and then Mike gave me these lyrics that had Zach in them. Like in the old days, but he invented this new character named Billy Bob, and Zach was always kind of a delinquent. He was a
yeah.
guy who was always getting in trouble and making terrible decisions.
Yeah.
And he gave me these lyrics about him, and his friend Billy Bob was kind of a gullible kind
Yes.
of person
Yes.
who kind of Zach would get him in trouble, and then we wrote a song about that, and I guess I really just liked how did they get here? What are they gonna do next? And
Right.
I ended up writing a sequel. So that song was it was what was that song? You're an
Laying
accomplice.
Low. Laying Low.
No. No, the first song was You're an Accomplice.
Yes. Yep.
And then I'm like,
You wrote Laying Low next.
no, I did not. There's out of chronological order. So I remember we did that, and then you had written Don't Make Our Love Like a Drive-By Shooting.
But I wrote that like 30 years ago.
It was, but then I looked at it and I realized, the song was sang in the first person as a character, not as us.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? This character could be Billy Bob. It like fit. And
Yep.
then I wrote a song called Please Break My Heart, which was kind of the next song in that story. And then we had a little something. We went back and wrote some filler, Laying Low and Busted 510.
5 to 10.
And then it became just like a little story, and now we're kind of stuck with it. So we wrote that, and then the next album we wrote as a prequel, what happened before that.
kind of like the
And then
Star Wars model.
Oh,
right.
right.
And then yeah, our third album, I've got to wrap it up, which is why I'm procrastinating so much. I want to do a Christmas album next because you don't want to end up like a Game of Thrones and blow the ending. I
Oh,
want to
right,
stick the
right.
ending on this. That could make all the difference. But then yeah, so that's in many ways Billy Bob is like where all so much of our music grew out of because yeah,
Yeah,
it's two halves of the first album. The third album was yeah, as part of the story, he gets in a band and we were thinking, well, um he the idea is he had this big hit, but he didn't want to be famous, so he wanted to write really silly, dumb songs that nobody would like, but actually everybody did like them. And that was when we had that idea, suddenly just Mike just started writing it. Oh my God. I love the stuff. It was so I think not enough bands are humorous, probably because nobody wants them to be.
right.
There's probably a good reason.
Well, I that's what I liked about that whole story and the last album too, because it's fun, right? There's just
Thank
Yes.
you.
it's just having fun, making good music, but just being lighthearted with the whole thing and not taking it super seriously. Although, I mean, the music, I think serious. You guys obviously put serious work into it, but
Yes.
the 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 themes of the music, just
More
you can have
lighthearted.
fun. Yeah, it's great.
Well, I know everybody, you get in a band because you want to look cool. And,
I
that
love that.
kind yeah, and there's no hope for us. So we got to take it in a different direction. And music, when somebody's trying to look cool, I mean, it gets old fast.
Yeah.
Everybody looks cool in the same way. So yeah,
Yeah,
we try,
I gave him my leather pants, 30 years ago.
thank goodness.
Oh, awesome. So, one of the things I like to go talk about as far as backstory is related to your interest in music. And was there a particular person in your life that was very influential for you to want to play music? Let's start with Mike.
Well,
And that
I
could be like
grew
a
up.
professional person. It could be somebody in your life. It could be anybody.
I grew up around music, and I wasn't allowed to play music because let's just refer to him as my donor. He was a drummer and a cheater in bar bands kind of thing.
Uh,
And I just fell in love with the drums. Growing up in a house with a drum set, and my mother didn't want me to play. And so when I went to college, my sophomore year, I used some of my college loan money to buy my first drum set
awesome.
because I just I had a hankering. I had a feeling that I just needed to express, and also I'm nothing like what I refer to as my donor.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I did, I had a musical family as well. My grandfather was a professional musician.
Oh, wow, cool.
Well, before, when he was younger, before World War II, he was a professional musician. I just looked him up in the census. Like the censuses came out, and I'm like, oh, let's see if
Yeah.
my grandparents are in there. And it in the census under what he does for an occupation, it said musician.
Wow, that's cool.
That
And
is cool.
but then he went into World War II. He was in the Pacific, and after that, he just got a regular job.
Right.
But he always played music. He was still in bands, but just part time. And then my father played guitar, and this is something that we could do together. So, and my mother, she liked stage theater, and
Uh-huh.
that kind of singing and whatever. So those are two, sort of the theater and the rock and roll on the other side. And so it was nice. They weren't that encouraging when I was really into Black Sabbath, though. Um, it was not my mom's dream come true. I can assure you.
Oh
Um,
man, that's a bummer. My
I can't
mom,
say they were supportive, but they were at least tolerant. And for a teenage musician, I think that's pretty good. You
yeah,
know,
my mom asked me to please stop playing Working Man from Rush.
I
Oh
will
man.
never, I will never stop playing Working Man.
So like, do you know any other song? Because I think the very first tune I tried to learn,
It's like a
and
10-minute song too.
well, yeah, well, the chords are pretty easy, right? That
Yeah.
it's just don't try to get into the whole bass
Alex's
thing.
solo
Yeah,
too.
or Alex's
Oh, it's
solo. Yeah.
so good.
And the
Um,
drums were a lot easier on that one because it wasn't Neil Peart.
It was
that's
Phil
yeah,
Rutsey.
yeah.
Oh, I'm a huge Rush fan. Now I'm gonna geek out. I
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have this idea. I wanna put together a Rush tribute act called One Octave Down, and we're gonna play everything exactly the same except for one difference, and maybe you can guess what that is.
oh
Um,
my God, that'd be crazy.
Otherwise, I will not be able to sing
Well, I was gonna say that'll help definitely with the singing, right?
it. Yeah, singing a bass Getty.
Right.
Um,
Awesome. So, you guys have the podcast. What what was the inspiration? I think it was because the same for me. It was the pandemic and like, what the hell else am I going to do? But
well,
I'm curious how that started.
you
It was
know,
Chris's inspiration.
yeah. Here's the thing. Um, and Mike told me this. This is called Fans with Bands, and I'm like, Mike, we don't have any fans that aren't musicians. And this is something like Mike had already we promote ourselves so much through other musicians and through community. Mike was
Yeah.
booking people. He does these songwriters in the round. I started an online open mic. And this is where we were, and not only were we actually able to play to people now, even though they were other musicians and
Right.
great people, but the community, the musician community is just so wonderful. So it's like, yeah, let's
Absolutely.
lean into that. Let's get these people on a podcast. And we have so many people we want to talk to. I don't have time to talk to them all, but slow and steady wins the race.
Right.
And
Exactly. Well, there's so
and
many, because there are other, um, small podcasts
yeah,
like mine, like yours. But they're all like, well, I shouldn't say they're all. There's many that are
yeah.
into music.
Right.
There's one in Detroit. Those guys crank out. They do like live sets. And I'm blanking on the name of their podcast, but it's awesome. It's more of like a YouTube thing, but I
Okay.
think they distribute it
So,
on the podcast services.
I
But
should check that out.
Chris, is that the
Because
one that we went to in Berkeley or some
yeah,
Ferndale?
I can't remember the name of
yeah,
it. I'm blanking out.
um,
I should have been
where was it? It
prepared.
was Royal Oak. It was in Royal Oak, and it's something about live or something. We did that. And
Yeah.
I've forgotten what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, their production really high quality. They
Yeah.
super nice studio. Um,
But I
but
think it's
yeah,
great that you guys are doing that. Getting highlighting that community that you're a part of,
Yeah.
right? Of
well,
all
we
those
love
great
them.
people. Yeah.
We absolutely, so many of these musicians out there, I deserve to be heard. And
They
yeah, when I go back and I listen to the radio, I'm like, this stuff isn't that great. The
Yeah.
people I know are just as good as this.
Oh, for sure. I mean, anytime I like mainstream, there's some mainstream acts that I totally love, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but respect and happy they're making millions of dollars and doing great things. But I totally agree with you in that when somebody tells me, and I've heard this many times, like, oh, there's no good shows to go to, or I don't really, and I'm like, what? I mean,
right.
there's like too many
Exactly.
shows.
And that's why, I mean,
There's too many bands here that you could listen to.
one of the other things that I'm working on poorly, I mean, so many projects partially done. Um, this is something that's really an area that I believe in, and what I noticed was I'm a web developer, and I've developed all of my own band's websites since forever,
Uh-huh.
and I have this collection of things that sites need and ways to edit, and I'll do this stuff, and I'm like, I should I should develop this and give it away to my friends to help promote their gigs.
Oh yeah.
And it's never done. I have
Uh,
one person, Candy, is she's my guinea pig. And she agreed to help me with it, and she started it up and she uses it and gives me feedback and things like that. And I really would like to start expanding it out, but I'm worried that once I get too many people on it, then it's gonna be everybody's gonna hate it, and I'm gonna spend all my time fixing bugs. So this is how you self-sabotage. If anybody out there wants a few techniques, but it's really cool, and this is something I believe in too. In that so many out there now with what you have to be on Facebook
Yep.
or these other all this social media, but does it that's good for the sites, but is it really the best way to promote yourself as a musician? And of course not. That's not their main thing.
Yeah.
And I'm creating, yeah, I it's called yourlocal.band. You could
Nice.
actually go there and see some stub pages talking about it. And I think it's Candy Frederick at your
Candace,
local.
Candace Frederick.
Okay. All right. I'll go check
Well,
it
no,
out.
at the URL is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Maybe.
Um, well, I'll figure it out later. But
Yeah.
everything is like your band's name dot yourlocal.band. And then you have your site there, and you could put your gigs and your songs and all sorts of pictures and things like that. So that's another thing I'm working on. And again, it is leaning into we kind of promote ourselves through the musical community.
Yeah.
We don't have any real fans, which is it hurts a little. Would be
Well,
nice
we
to.
just
I'm
have
sure
one
you
fan.
do. I'm
Just
sure you
one
do.
fan.
Yeah. I'm
Just,
I'm
just one fan who's not a musician friend or family member.
Yes, exactly. It's like I appreciate the family members and friends and other musicians, but my dream is to have a real fan one day. And we've come close. Um,
Yeah,
in our Christmas extravaganza, there was a couple there that was just there to come have some kombucha, and they loved it, you
awesome.
know.
Awesome.
And and
That's what it's all about, really.
I showered them with merch, you know. It's not beneath me to bribe people to be our fans out of guilt.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I think, you guys doing what you're doing, um, is part of what I've been thinking is that it's really hard, like you mentioned, Chris, that it's really hard for bands like to do their music, do their shows, book their own shows,
It's a lot
manage
of
their
work.
bands, and then also have to worry about social media and like, oh, I got to put
Right.
this out here, I got to put this here, blah blah blah. That I think it's if you have that community and that community is very engaged with sharing that information, then you can kind of bust the algorithm, so to speak, to get, if Facebook's shutting your band page down
Yep.
and you've got five of your friends going, hey, so and so's playing here, that's going to help kind of get
That's
around
the
that.
idea. No, exactly. I mean, and whenever I talk about this, and I can really geek out on I don't want to do it right now because it can get a little tedious, but people are like, yeah, hey, when can I have one? And I'm like, oh, not yet.
Yeah.
It's not ready yet. But and it is, and sure, a big part of it is linking to your social media.
Right.
You want to be like, hey, what are you pushing right now? Is it TikTok or
Yeah.
Facebook or YouTube? And it's all up there, and it's a way to help drive subscriptions and things like that. But the idea is you don't know when these things are going to go away. When's YouTube
Right.
going to become MySpace? And this is
Right.
your own, your own site that you have complete control over, and it's sort of the central hub. And it doesn't have to do everything because you have all this other social media.
Yeah.
Just really needs to be a good solid central site. And yeah, people are interested if I could finish it, but I
That's
have
right.
10 other projects I need to finish first. So
Got to carve
But
out that time.
a good promotional device, since I'm just barely above a Luddite in terms of computer, barely above, is when my friends on Facebook announce a gig, I'll share it, I'll forward it,
Yeah.
I'll support them. That, and they sometimes support us too if they think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the hardest thing for me. Is
Yeah,
in my head, I have this idealized thing that, I could actually make a schedule of all these bands I know and all
mhm.
these people and try to like be And it is actually a goal of mine to try to get better at that, to try
Yeah.
to be like, make sure I carve out some part of my day um, to promote all of the rest of the stuff. Because it is right now, it's kind of one off. Like I think, oh, so
Exactly.
and so's got a show. Boom. Either I'm going to try to
Right.
get to it myself, or say, hey, this is coming up if you're in this area. But
And that's where I'd like to go with the, because I mean, I'm giving individual band sites, but
Mhm.
now you can aggregate. You could
yeah,
you could go there and you could say, "Oh, I like this band," and then it'll pull all their gigs together into one massive calendar, and you could see, "Oh, well, who do they like?" And see,
yeah,
now I can't even finish the basic one, and I'm already over designing these things, but there does seem to be a need, and there's definitely, I think, a lot of good that can come out of it, but
yeah.
I need about a year in my basement coding to
There
get
you
it to
go.
where it needs to be. But
And if I had more time, I'd have more time.
Right.
it's not really about bulk time. Like, I have 24 hours a day to spend how I wish. It's just I
Yeah.
gotta sleep, and it's
Yeah.
like, what do they call it? Emotional energy,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know?
But then there's
And
also, paying the mortgage and all that other good stuff.
Right. The things that we have to do to make sure that we can survive.
yeah, it takes a lot of emotional energy.
That does. It
Then
does.
after that, I'm exhausted.
You know, I and I, I'm fortunate. I don't feel like I work at all.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love what I
I
do.
don't work anymore. I'm retired, so.
Oh, so
Oh, very nice.
jealous.
I'm a mental health therapist,
Oh,
and
awesome.
I just talk to people all day.
Well,
I don't feel like
that's fantastic. I think isn't Judy Banker also
Yep.
Judy
Or
Banker
no,
is.
yep.
wait,
Yep.
who did we talk to? I need to put that podcast up. It was
Lyndon Thoburn is
Lyndon
also a
Thoburn.
therapist.
Very
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
Very
And
nice.
Yeah, I'm doing that this weekend. I'm posting the Lyndon Thoburn, I swear. I was so fried. The Christmas extravaganza took a lot out of me. So I'm just getting back into the swing of things.
we're,
And you
we're
know what?
thinking about we're thinking about doing Christmas in July at Unity Vibrations too. That'd be kind of fun.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I
Especially
don't
if you're
know if
doing
I'm
Christmas
recovered
music.
from Christmas in December yet. I might need the 12 months. Uh,
Oh yeah.
but you know what? And you asked about the podcast and why we're doing it. One of the things that I was thinking of is, yes, there's all this social media, and everybody's like, you got to get on social media. And I'm like, okay, I have a TikTok account. What do I do? And it's about, creating content.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, just make content. What's content? It could be anything. Like it could be, but
Right.
what do I choose? What can we make? And then that's when I was like, Mike and I just talking to musicians, that's something we do normally by
Yeah.
choice. We don't have to go out and do a dance or any of that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this could be really good content.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
Well, and one of the things I like about your podcast is that it's so conversational. I mean, it's you're asking questions, but it does sound like just folks sitting down talking about what they are interested in. In this case, it's music, right?
Yeah, I stole that from Joe Rogan. I mean,
He does a good job of that, and that's why he probably
I don't know if I
multi-million.
like him as a person,
Yeah,
but he's figured it out, and
Yeah.
that's why we went for 2 hours too. Because to me, it seems like the first half hour, you kind of have to get out all the standard questions,
yeah,
and then you start to become relaxed and let the conversation go where you want. And, that's what I noticed, watching Joe with a good guest is it is just having a really great conversation with really interesting people.
yeah,
And it just takes time and a lot of work. and
Yeah.
I enjoy the heck out of it.
That's awesome. So, a question I have that I like to ask folks, it's again kind of that origin story thing, and that's around albums or CDs or whatever your genre is. But what was the very first album you bought with your own money? And let's start with Chris. Do you remember?
Oh geez, an album?
Well,
Well, we
or
had
tape or whatever.
45s back then.
Okay.
Like when I was, 10 years old or whatever, I could take, a dollar. I think it was like maybe $1.10, $1.25, and I could go down to Kmart and I could pick up a 45.
Yeah.
And I mean, back then, disco was really big. Grease. I remember I bought something from Grease,
Nice.
and then I bought an Aerosmith song,
Oh,
and,
awesome.
and even I'm this tiny kid, and I got this Aerosmith 45, and the woman's like, "Ooh, Aerosmith, huh?" And I was like, "Don't shame me. I could like Aerosmith." So I mean, those are the ones that I remember. I think the Grease, the song Grease from
Yeah.
Grease,
Yeah.
which wasn't from the play, I think. I think that was for the movie. And then maybe something, I don't know, maybe something by the Bee Gees. They were so big. And I remember Aerosmith.
Awesome.
Oh, I
Awesome.
don't remember. It might have been Come Together.
Oh, cool. That's a great song.
So yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
You
Mike, how
know,
about you?
I bought two records at the same time as my first. Um, I lived in Detroit, and back then you could go shovel people's snow
Yeah.
for money, and
Yep.
so I had a big bucket of money from shoveling snow, and I remember going out and buying Robin Williams' "Reality What a Concept" and and the Blues Brothers briefcase full of blues.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Good one.
My friend bought that album. We listened to the hell out of that thing. It was so good.
well, I think that's kind of an example of my lyric writing comes from
The Blues
those
Brothers.
humor poems. Well, Blues Brothers, Robin Williams, just
Yeah.
wacky. I used to love watching the Monkees when I was a kid, and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
all
there's a
the
little
wacky.
influence there.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you guys have listened to it. I've been addicted to this podcast. It's called A History of Rock and Roll in 500 Songs. And
I've
the
heard of it.
and this guy, he's I think he's in England somewhere. Um, he talks about a particular song and goes in depth, like anywhere from an hour to hour and a half, 2 hours about a particular song and that band. And he just did uh shoot, what is it? The Monkey song, Daydream
Dave,
Believer.
Dave Believer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was talking about that and just talking about that band. He actually had them on there twice because he does Last Train to Clarksville.
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't know half that crap about the Monkees, and he just did Otis Redding sitting on the dock of the bay. I had no idea, like Otis's
Yeah.
story at all, which was fantastic.
It's
And
amazing
yeah,
story. It was
yeah,
so sad that we lost him.
I know.
I
I,
mean,
you know, I didn't even realize that he died so young. He
yeah,
was
I think it was even before Sitting on the Dock of the Bay was a hit.
Yes, he died right before he'd recorded it, and Steve
Well,
Cropper.
Mike, now we know what we need to do to promote our music.
That's
Yeah,
right. He died.
no.
No, I'm not saying we should die. What I'm saying, maybe just
Oh,
keep a song in the bank,
There you go.
and then you put it in you got to play it at your funeral,
Let's
and
do
that'll
it.
be the best promotional opportunity you'll
yeah.
ever have.
Let's work on that.
All right, yeah, yes.
But anyway, I highly recommend that podcast because it's taught me so much about I've never really been like a huge um, I'm a huge music fan, but haven't really delved into the history so much of
Mhm.
all rock and roll. So it's awesome. And when you were
His
talking about the Monkees, I was like, oh yeah, I just
Yeah.
remembered.
history of rock and roll in 5,000 songs. Is that what it's called?
500.
500.
500. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's totally. He starts from 1938.
Whoa.
Goes all the way back to 1938 with the kind of um, jump jive kind of
Yeah.
stuff. There was some particular show in New York that he cites as like kind of the beginning of rock music, and then just carries it on through. And he's only now into like Otis Redding, so like
Yeah, late 60s.
late 60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
When does the history of rock end?
yeah. Well, he's
Yeah.
he's only taking it up to 2000. That's
Yeah, that's
yeah.
probably a good place to start.
That's when music died.
Kind of got boring. I mean, to me, I thought that the 90s were the last really exciting era of music because I mean, you had such a huge shift from, by the end of the 80s, you had all of this hair metal
Yeah.
and you had some, dance music and whatever, but rock and roll itself was sort of, it was there, radio was not supporting a lot of small artists. They,
Right.
they, they,
Right.
they couldn't get over that hump.
Yeah.
And then Kurt Cobain basically comes out and just breaks that down. And,
Yeah.
and when that happens, all of these great, hard rocking, but very melodic and great songwriting kind of grunge stuff comes
Yeah.
out. And I thought it was it's no 70s. I mean, the 70s is an amazing time for rock and roll, but
Yeah.
I think the 90s really had something to say.
Yeah, I think that there was lots of great music. I mean, whatever your genre of that you love, it was a little bit of a dark time for because I'm like a huge heavy metal fan.
Yeah.
I thought of it as a little bit of a dark time then in the early '90s because
Yeah, but
I really couldn't get into new metal, but
radio wasn't supporting metal anyway.
no, it never did. Never did.
So metal's always kind of been a bit underground. And when I was growing up listening to Rush and Ozzy and Iron Maiden, they never played Iron Maiden on the radio.
Yeah,
You just had to listen, you had to choose to listen to it on your own.
They
That's
did
right.
play Judas Priest.
Oh yeah,
They
every
did.
once in a while. Yep,
Eh,
yep,
not
every once in a while. So speaking of music and kind of that backstory thing, how about first concert you guys went to? First concert experience, Mike. How about you?
I think it was Foreigner at Pine Knob.
Nice.
Uh,
Do you remember like which album they might have been touring for?
I think it might have been, wasn't their second record Double Vision?
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
right.
I think that was the tour. I don't know if
Nice.
Ian McDonald was still with them at the time, but I found out, I learned a lot about Ian McDonald later that he was one of the original members of King Crimson. And he's a
Really?
guy that sang Star Rider, and it was putting
Really?
that together was interesting. But
Wow.
I'm a big King Crimson fan.
Yeah.
But Foreigner would have been my first concert.
Awesome. Very cool.
Hmm. The first one I went to, it's like you go to things with your parents and whatever
Right?
at county fairs and stuff like that. But it's like that doesn't
I don't think
count.
those
I mean,
count.
the first time, yeah, I went to a concert by myself with my friends as a teenager was a Deep Purple.
Nice.
And it was
Oh,
in Flint, and it was, yeah, they had that
Flint.
DP album or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
in the 80s that was really strong.
Yeah.
And oh my God, they blew my mind. I mean, I'm sure Foreigner was fine, Mike. I don't want to upstage it too much, but Deep Purple, they were a force of nature.
That's
actually,
awesome.
absolutely. Was that with Ian Gillan fronting them, or was
Oh
it
yeah.
with?
Yeah,
Okay.
he'd had to have
Yeah.
been in the band then. Because that
And
was that album was huge for them.
it was.
Yeah.
Was it Knocking at Your Back
Yep.
Door? That was a
Yep.
big
Yep.
song. They had a
Yep.
couple of huge hits on that in the mid 80s and then but I got to say how lucky I feel that I got to see John Lord just do this
Yeah.
organ solo and he's got this massive organ on stage and he's rocking the whole thing just playing, never missing a note, rocking this organ back and forth. It just shows how hard you can rock even on like a church instrument.
Yeah.
It's not about the instrument.
So-
It is about the technique.
I didn't know the caveat was, without a parent.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that would have been
Oh.
Journey.
Oh, awesome. Nice.
And yeah, I think that might have been after their second or third record with Steve Perry.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's peak Journey right there.
that is.
My sister loved Journey, and the only way she could go by herself is if I went with her.
There
Nice.
you go. Awesome. Yeah. What was that? Shoot, blanking out on names. Was it Evolution?
Yeah, Evolution was
I think that
one
was
of the first.
yeah, that was like a big one where they had, kind of getting Steve Perry out there and because
Yeah.
I think Greg Raleigh had been there. Well, he sang some songs, but
Well, Greg Raleigh had been there since the beginning, he and
Yeah, well, him and Neil Schon were in Santana, weren't they?
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
well, Neil Schon joined Santana at 16.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Now, do you know with Journey? My sister was a huge fan, terribly in love with Steve Perry, but with they Journey put out those first three albums without Steve Perry, and they
Yeah.
were awesome. They
Yeah.
were amazing. But apparently, the in the studio, they said, "Well, you'll never get famous with a voice like that," and so they brought in Steve Perry, and there you go.
Sometimes the producers are spot on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was reading something about, so when and our open mic, sometimes we'll have theme nights, if it starts getting boring.
Right.
And then we had one for Bruce Springsteen. And
All right.
oh my gosh, it was so good. He has such a depth, so many songs, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
And as I was researching some to try to learn, I found that when he released was Born in the USA, the producer told him there were no singles on it. He forced him to go back into the studio and just and he just recorded something as poppy as it could, and it ended up being, oh, now I don't remember, but like a huge hit and a great song. It's like, you know what? Sometimes you need an annoying producer there to come in
Right.
and say, hey, you know what? This isn't gonna sell. What? Oh, and yeah, last night I was reading about the Traveling Wilburys, and
Mm.
apparently, yeah, what was it? George Harrison and Jeff Lynne wrote their big hit, and they just did it, goofing around with the other guys in a garage, and they were going to throw it on a B-side, and the producers are like, nope, this is not going on a B-side. They ended up having to form a band and record a whole album because the producers wanted to make money on this song. They knew how good it was.
The end of the line.
No,
Oh.
it and everybody needs somebody to lean on.
Oh
Yeah.
Um,
I can't think of the title of it, but yeah.
I'm drawing a blank. It's been a long day. I've got to get harassed by this cat.
That's right.
He's eating my finger now. Did not have any cats before the pandemic. There was another Zoom and cats. That's what I've.
That's what I've
got from the pandemic.
So if you guys could sit down and have whatever your favorite beverage is with somebody, either alive or dead, who would that be, and what would you like to talk to them about? Let's start with Mike.
Like
unless
musicians?
it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be a musician.
Like historical figure.
Could be a historical figure. Could be.
I would love to spend a couple hours with Robin Williams.
Nice.
Yeah,
that'd be a fun couple of hours.
It would.
I know. He was from the Detroit area.
Yeah.
Hilarious guy. Grew up with him in a way, and even though on the very outside he was, bombastic and hilarious, he was kind of a pretty sad and depressed guy, and you could see it in his eyes in most of the movies. And I'd love to sit down with him for a while.
Yeah.
Chit chat.
He could play dramatic so well.
Oh man. Yeah,
Well,
the Fisher King.
Fisher King. Yeah, that's a great movie.
And that was and goofy too. He can
It's
do
goofy,
both.
yeah, but it's good. That's a really good one. Yeah.
For me, is if we're going, anybody alive or dead, we'll forget about the language barrier, and I would want to talk to Leonardo da Vinci.
Nice.
And magically I'll learn Italian. Like, I've been reading about him lately, and he just seems like, okay, he painted very few things. We have like a handful of paintings. It's not because those survived. He had a day job.
Yeah.
He was not a professional painter. He was an engineer, and a terrible procrastinator as well. So many half-finished things, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm starting to relate to this man. And And it was, and I love the idea of how, you know what, you don't need to make a million paintings. I mean, maybe if you're Picasso, but not everybody needs to.
Yeah.
You know, you just make that one great one. You paint the Mona Lisa, poof, that's it. Done. I don't need to paint nothing else. And just the idea of this great Renaissance man did it all with a day job and really picked and chose his art. You know, he wasn't prolific. He did not work to a deadline. And in many ways, it's like I want to exemplify that, except instead of painting the Mona Lisa, I'm going to write a silly song about Billy Bob. So very similar. You
There
can
you go.
see
There
you
you
can
go.
see the parallels.
Awesome. Maybe the Pope will commission your work.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know who his patrons were at the time.
Yeah, I
I know
don't-
he he
yeah.
worked for the local principalities and whatever,
Yeah.
designing war machines with the scythes spinning
That's
pulled by
right.
horses and whatever. So yeah, you gotta make a buck. You gotta pay your bills.
That's right. Well, guys, I really appreciate you being on Fans with Bands. It's been awesome talking with you. I've got just one last question, and that is pineapple or no pineapple on pizza? Mike.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
You know what? I could pretty much eat anything that tastes good. It's one of those things that I would never. I know, and it's a real religious thing, isn't it? People
is.
really fall into one camp or the other. So I'm walking the fence on this. I'm like, it's all right either way. I don't think I would ever intentionally order it. But when
Right.
somebody orders it, I'm like, oh, kick ass, pineapple.
It's the perfect flavor. The sweet and the savory.
Yeah. But you've got to be a fan of sweet and savory. So I am not. I mean, it's like it's a no starter. If there's
It's a
pineapple on
no.
a thing, no.
Well, okay, so you hate me now.
No. Mike, I love you.
Heretic.
But I'll just, I respect your choice. And I'm curious, like, everyone has certain combos when I talk to people that like pineapple. So what is your combination for what you like with the pineapple?
Pineapple and sausage.
Oh, nice. Now I've not heard that
Is it
one.
unique?
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad, I think, because I
People go
think
with a ham.
like an Italian sausage would actually be pretty good. So
Yeah, and ham is too bland. I like ham,
yeah.
but if you want a bland pizza, buy one with ham.
If you want to get crazy, go with the
Man, he has opinions
Yeah,
on these
yeah,
pizza
nice.
toppings. I am just like,
I
you
kind
could
of
put
vacillate
anything on a
between-
pizza. I mean,
between
anything that's on the
sausage-
menu. You get just like put your shoe on it or
Yeah.
something. But it's like I look at all the toppings and I'd be like, yes, I would eat all of those in differing combinations.
But I vacillate between the sausage and pineapple, or sausage and banana peppers.
Oh, now see, I'm totally with you on the banana peppers. Right on.
Yeah, yeah. Those are my
Pizza is a way of life.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
bacon all over everything.
Oh yeah. Bacon's a fruit, so it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thanks again so much for being on Fans with Bands. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
Thanks,
for the
Chuck.
opportunity.
Thanks for
It was
having us.
it was a great time.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
And-
nice to be on this side, sometimes.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'll be looking forward to more podcasts, more music. Hopefully I'll catch you guys on a show. I know you guys play in Ann Arbor. That's
Mhm.
where I live, so I'll try to get out there sometime.
We're in Ypsilanti
Playing
tomorrow.
tonight.
Oh, tomorrow. What the hell? are we- Oh.
Yeah, I hate to put you on short notice, but
Awesome. All right, guys.
We have our list of shows on the website.
Cool. All right. I will stay in touch. All right,
awesome.
guys. Take
Thanks,
care.
Chuck.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yep.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks to Chris and Mike for joining me on this episode of Fans of Bands. I had a great time talking with them about their band, Barker and Broski, and their podcast, Making It Small in Music. These guys are super down to earth and a lot of fun to talk to. Stay tuned to the Barker and Broski website for the latest on their music and shows. See the show notes for all the details and links. These are tough times for everyone in the creative industries such as music. Your support of live streaming, purchasing music, and merchandise is critical. If you can help out your local artists, please do. If you are in the Michigan area, consider following the Playing in the Detroit Area Tonight Facebook page. It is a place for fans and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show and leaving a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jams.